Today I would like to welcome to our studio Paul Hawkins, Managing Director of GlobalSearch. He's been placing senior executives in the Middle East banking industry for 21 years. Paul, can you update me a little bit on the developments in the banking industry?
Thank you very much, Jana. Well, banks of course have announced the results for 2015, and up till the end of the third quarter they were excellent. But at the end of the year their total results depended entirely on how much provisioning was necessary in our books, and there is an air of caution around the Gulf. UAE banks were heavily exposed to the SME market and they didn't fare quite so well. But in general, banks' balance sheets are very robust and things are under control.
What's causing this air of caution?
Well, in a nutshell, the dramatic fall in oil prices which has taken place over the last couple of years. Interestingly, people have been saying for many years that this whole Gulf region is dependent on one commodity. But in point of fact, markets all over the world have been affected by the recent collapse in oil prices. So it's in everyone's interest to force the price of oil up. And I think that's going to happen. Economists think that's going to happen. There's a meeting of OPEC later this month, and people are expecting some positive results from that.
What action is being taken to counter this?
Well, governments are looking for ways of reducing expenditure, and some major projects have been put on hold all over the Gulf. And as payroll costs represent 60 to 70% of total overheads, then redundancies have been taking place, in particular in the oil and gas sector and the finance sector. But this is happening not only in the Gulf, but also in other parts of the world.
How would you advise someone who's lost their job?
Well, firstly, when you leave your employer, leave graciously and try not to pick a fight with anyone, because it could come back to haunt you and you might need them for references anyhow. And secondly, speak well of previous employers. Saying at an interview it was a great company and it was a joy to work for them sounds a lot better than not a good company, didn't like the way they did business, and that reflects more on you than the company. And then it's the 3 Gs. Get over it, get on your feet, and get going again. And you stay positive and you look upon it as an opportunity gained rather than an opportunity lost.
And Paul, do you have any other tips?
Well, finding a job was a full-time job, 9 to 5, day after day. And by all means take a break with the family, but don't go too far away because you need to stay in touch with the markets. Listen to Tony Robbins, Tom Peters, Ron Kaufman, Brian Tracy. They're masters in the art of positive thinking. And if you pick up 10% of what they say, you really learn something.
What advice would you give to job seekers in the current economic climate?
Well, at the risk of stating the obvious, you've got to be better than all the other candidates. That means you have to have a better CV, you have to have a better interview technique, and you have to remain positive because you're going to face rejections from time to time. Contact firstly your friends, then a consultant who you know can help you, and then the business networks and the internet portals who advertise jobs. And if the sector you happen to be in is currently downsizing, then you might have to move to another sector. I think the answer is just remaining positive and being flexible.
Well, what do you think employers are looking for in a CV?
I think they're looking for simplicity, I think they're looking for creativity, and they're looking for someone who can make a difference. They're not looking for exaggerated statements like, I revolutionized the company in 6 months. Exaggeration is very common, but it's very easy to spot.
What advice would you offer a candidate at interview stage?
Firstly, if you have a hang-up about the reasons for leaving your previous job, explain it once and don't repeat it. He heard you the first time. Secondly, if your contract of employment was terminated, be frank about it. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's happening all over the world.
If there was one thing that a candidate could say to an interviewer that would get them really, really excited about them, what would that be?
Something like, throughout the whole of their career, they've continually and persistently tried to make progress. That means putting something in place that wasn't there before, something like a new idea, a new solution, a new business idea, a new business customer, and most important of all, minute by minute, day by day, year by year, trying to learn from the mistakes they've made. That's progress.
And do you have any final tips before we say goodbye?
Be modest, be gracious, and be a good listener. And remember, in your job search, only the best candidate is going to be successful in getting the job. And you have to find ways of being that candidate. And today we've talked about some of the ways you can do that. In conclusion, there are jobs out there. So remember the 3 Gs, get over it, get up on your feet, and get going again. And there is a 4th G. good luck. And remember, finally, never, ever give up.
Thank you, Paul, for joining us and for sharing your vast experience with us. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Jana. It was a pleasure.